welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're doing well. Welcome to another video and welcome back to day 8 of 12 Days of Bookmas. Today we are doing yet another reaction video. I believe it's the last reaction video for this series, so I hope that you guys are enjoying these. You seem to be enjoying the reaction videos, and I have a fun time filming them just because I love to put myself on blast and ask myself why? So today we are going to be reacting to my 21 books to read in 2021. I don't know how well I did it. I'm being honest. I haven't really tracked it as well as I would have wanted to. I put it in my bullet journal, and then like 4 or 5 months into the year, I just stopped looking at my bullet journal altogether. And so I haven't really, double checked or tracked down whether or not I have been following through with this. So I guess we will find out together. So without further ado, let's talk about the 21 books I was supposed to read in 2021. All right, you know the drill. I'm just going to scoot over and we're going to talk about it. Okay, so the first book that we're going to talk about is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I am happy to say that I just finished this book as of like 3 days ago. No, 2 days, yesterday. I finished it yesterday, oh my god. And I really enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much as The Night Circus, but I think that it was a really well done book, and especially I believe this one was her debut. For a debut novel that's as complex and intense and convoluted and genius as this book is, like, high props. I gave it a 4.5. No, actually I think I gave it a 4.75 on Storygraph, which compared to The Night Circus, I gave that one a full 5 stars. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really well done book, but I just didn't love it as much as The Night Circus. So for starting it off, good. So far, so good. Let's see if that continues. Up next, I don't know what was going on with this video, but I have like weird white stuff going around. But the next up was Mistborn. I was hoping to read the entire Mistborn trilogy, but my main focus was The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. And I can say that I tried. I read 100 pages of the first book in the series. And from what I read, I really enjoyed where the story went and the characters and the writing style. I just didn't get around to finishing it. I was in the middle of a reading slump when I was reading that book. I was actually reading both The Final Empire and Skyward in the same month, and I DNF'd them both in the same month. So it is what it is. It's unfortunate, and I do definitely hope to go back to The Final Empire at some point, but I definitely did not read it this year. Okay. We started off strong and then just went straight downhill because the next one that we have is Fable by Adrienne Young. This is another one that I really wanted to read. It is a nautical themed like fantasy story, and I heard really good things about it, and then I heard very mixed reviews after it had come out for a little while, and I wasn't intrigued or compelled to pick it up during this year. However, I'm still really interested in reading it. I obviously own the first book and I absolutely love the cover, so I do really want to read it and give it a try and see how I feel about it. But unfortunately, I did not get around to it this year. Definitely something that I'm going to try to focus on getting to a lot of these books that I missed next year, but we shall see. Okay, up next we have One to Watch by Kate Stayman London, and this one I did read. I didn't enjoy it as much as I would have wanted to. I was hoping to give it a 5 out of 5 stars. Unfortunately, I think I gave it a 3-star in the end. I didn't end up loving how the story played out. I didn't love how it was supposed to be a plus size, fat positive book, and it felt very fat shamey for a lot of it, and it just didn't feel like a positive book that made you feel hopeful about this main character most of the way through. It was also centered around a bachelor style TV show, which I thought was going to be amazing, but I just don't think the execution of this book was everything that I would have wanted. So unfortunately, I didn't love it, but I mean, I'm glad that I read it and got it off my shelf, but I'm just sad that I didn't love it more than I did. Okay. Next up is The Beautiful by Renee Audier, and I loved The Wrath and the Dawn duology. I thought that it was so stellarly well done, and I loved it so much. I definitely loved the first book more than the second one, but I think as a duology, it was so beautiful, and I still have yet to read any more of Renee Audier's work. The Beautiful has gotten such mixed reviews that every time I think about picking it up, it scares me because I love this author's other work so much that I'm so afraid to be disappointed by her newest work. I do know a lot of people that have absolutely loved the first and second book in the series so far. All of the negative reviews have really hindered my my jovialness to want to go and pick up that book. So hopefully I can get to it relatively soon in the new year, but we shall see. I'm excited to give it a go still, but I'm a little bit apprehensive in regards to the negative reviews. Another one that I really, really wanted to get to, and that is All This Time by Rachel Lippincott and Mickey Daughtry. They are the authors of 5 Feet Apart, which was one of my favorite books of last year. And I did have this on an audiobook hold through my library for about 3 weeks, and I just didn't get around to reading it. I had so many other books that I was prioritizing, and I just didn't get a chance to actually make time for it, but it is one that I'm super, super excited for. This is supposed to be another hard-hitting contemporary romance between 2 characters that have a really, really tough time together. And so I'm interested to see how this is going to go, especially because I loved their first book so much. And I actually really enjoyed the movie as well. I just haven't had a chance to pick it up. I have every intention of doing so. The time never came. So hopefully next year I can make it a huge priority, because I believe that they're coming out with another book next year as well. So I would love to be able to read that one as well. Okay, we're back to another one that I have read, and that is Furyborn by Claire Legrand. I read this one and I really enjoyed it. I think I actually read this as one of my book club picks back when I was doing a book club, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was a very interesting fantasy. I really enjoyed the audiobook. I actually recommended that one recently in my audiobook recommendations for this year. I like the fact that it was told in dual perspectives, and it had this really interesting fantasy backdrop that I thought was really, really intriguing. And I'm really curious to get to the second book. I do own the second book. I just haven't gotten around to reading it just yet, but I am super glad that I was able to check another one off my list. Oh my goodness, Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I've had this on so many lists. I think I'm actually talking about that in this video. I've had this on so many lists, and I want to get to it so bad, and I have not picked it up yet. I was really hoping that putting it on my 21 books to read in 2021, that it would just push me and compel me to pick it up even more. But this book is just said to be so hard-hitting and so sad, and I honestly haven't really been in the mood to pick up that type of book just yet. I read a ton of them last year, and I haven't read a ton of them this year. I mean, I read a few, don't get me wrong, but I haven't really been gravitating towards that particular genre of general fiction. So I have every intention of trying to get to it next year, or at least one of Bachman's books, even if it's not Beartown. I do own 5 of his books altogether, so it'd be great to at least to get to one of them, please, but we shall see. Okay, up next we have Verity by Colleen Hoover. Yes, I did read this one, and I really, really enjoyed it. I was actually just talking about this book with a friend of mine on FaceTime yesterday, and I feel like this book is very polarizing. Either you love it or you don't, and I think that the ending is what's the most polarizing about this book, because it just is so left field, and it's one of those books that came, like, the plot twist really came out of nowhere, and you're kind of left wondering, like, what the fuck did I just read? But I did really enjoy it, and I highly recommend it if you haven't read any Colleen Hoover and you're interested in getting into her work. I think that one's a really good one to read because it's very fast-paced. It's very interesting. It definitely keeps you on the edge of your seat, and I feel like once you pick it up, it's very hard to put it down because you want to know the answers, and the ending is just crazy. So I did read it, really enjoyed it. I love Colleen Hoover. I need to read more of her work, like ASAP, so hopefully I can do that in the next year. Midnight Sun is haunting me in all of these videos. I feel like I was really pushing it really hard last year because I think it came out towards the end of last year, and I was like kind of hyped for it. And then once the hype died down, I was kind of like, oh, I own that book still. So I do want to read it. It is an intriguing premise. I think that having Twilight told from Edward's perspective could be quite interesting, depending on if you like Edward as a character, which I'm not sure that I really do, but I do like the idea of getting more of a vampire aspect to the story. So I'm really curious to give it a go, but it's not on my high priority list for next year. I think I mentioned this in one of my other videos. If I get to it, great. If not, great. Then we have a disappointing book of this list, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I did give this one a try, I want to say like 5 or 6, maybe 5 months ago. And I put it down after 120-ish pages. I didn't like the writing style. I was very confused. I wasn't vibing with the story. I wasn't having a great time. And so I ended up putting it down. And recently I just decided that I don't want to pick it back up. I don't think that it's going to be the book for me. I've read 2 other Leigh Bardugo books before. I love Six of Crows, and I didn't really love A Shadow and Bone. So I feel like this author is very hit or miss for me, and I feel like this series is definitely a miss. So that's very unfortunate. I know a lot of people that loved it. I just wasn't part of that club. This is another author that keeps haunting me, and that is Laini Taylor with Strange the Dreamer. Oh my gosh, do I want to read this? Yes. Have I read this? No. And it makes me so sad. Every time we talk about it, it brings me extreme sadness because I do really want to read it, and I think that it has a really interesting premise, but I just haven't had the time. Well, I've had the time. I just haven't made the time to pick it up just yet. I definitely want to make sure that I get this on a TBR bingo for sometime next year, because I honestly, if I don't read it next year, I'm going to be extremely sad, and I might actually shed a few tears. So let's make sure that that doesn't happen. Then we have another DNF, unfortunately, and that is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I did put this on my 5-star prediction list for last year as well, and I did finally get around to it after a long time of it sitting on that list, and I DNF'd it after about 140 pages. It was just too triggering for me. It wasn't a book that I could force myself to continue on with. I felt that it didn't feel satisfying reading the book, and it didn't feel rewarding, and it just made me feel icky reading it, so I ended up putting it down, and I'm sure somebody else that ended up picking that book up will hopefully really enjoy it. It just wasn't a book for me. Okay, another book that I have read and loved, and that is An Ember in the Ashes by Saboteur. This one was also on my 5-star prediction list for last year, and it took me a long time to finally get around to reading this one, but I am so glad that I did, honestly. It is such an interesting story and such a wild fantasy, and I loved how dark Saboteur was able to get with her stories. I just loved it so much. I'm so glad that I read it. I actually read book 2 quite recently after I read the first one, and now I am so excited to get around to book 3, so hopefully I can do that next year. That is also on my 5-star prediction list for 2022, so let's cross our fingers and hope that I get around to it and give it a full 5 stars. Another book series that continues to haunt me, and that is The Diviners by Layla Bray. This is another one that I feel like everybody has read and everyone keeps pushing me to read, and I still haven't picked it up. However, I will say that we are buddy reading this as a group on Mel's group chat on Twitter at the start of the year. So in January, I'm going to be picking it up, and I'm finally going to be delving into this series that I've heard such great things about. I've heard very mediocre things about the last book in the series, but I am so very excited to give it a go. Hopefully I love it and I can continue to move on with that series. But this is definitely one that's been haunting my dreams for sure. Then we have Occulta by Maya Motain. This is actually on my December TBR. I just haven't gotten around to reading it just yet. This is one that I am really excited for. It is the sequel to Nocturna. And I really enjoyed that first book. I thought that it was so intriguing and super well done, and I thought that it was just a beautiful a YA fantasy to start to a series, so I'm really excited to get around to book 2. I haven't really heard anybody talk about this series at all, and I think that the first book is so good, so hopefully the second book is just as good and they do not let me down, because I need good vibes this month. Then we have Heartstopper Volume 4 by Alice Oseman, and I did read this one. I think that it was a wonderful graphic novel. In addition to the rest of the series, I think it's a fantastic graphic novel series. I actually especially loved this book. I liked how Alice Oseman took some time to go into some deeper and heavier topics and talk a lot about therapy and taking some time to go into like a psychiatric facility to help with something that is really hurting you and really hindering your life. And I thought that it was really well done and handled beautifully and talked about in such a delicate and approachable manner that I thought was just so cute. Plus you have the adorable relationship between Nick and Charlie, which is just so beautiful to read about and see blossom every time there's a new volume in this series. I love it so much, and I cannot wait for volume 5. Another one that I've just recently finished, and that is The Serpents Curse by Lisa Maxwell. I finished this one last month, and it took me a long time to finally get around to it. I read like the first half of the book 1 month, and then I came back like 2 months later and finished the rest of the book series up. Well, there's going to be one more book in the series, but I finished up what was left of the series that is currently published, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was a really interesting third book. I think that it was better than the second book for sure. Not better than the first, but better than the second, and I really enjoyed it. I like Lisa Maxwell as a writer. I think that it takes a lot to put together the story that she has and make it cohesive and make it make sense, especially with all the timelines and all of the characters, but I think that she does it seamlessly and very well, and I'm very excited to hopefully finish out that series next year. Then we have A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I did finish out this entire series this year, so I don't have to worry about this one at all. I think I read it in like March, and I read it and it completely got me into like a book slump, a reading slump, because I was like, I cannot read anything else. So then I binged the rest of the series, and then the next month I read A Court of Silver Flames, and I love it. I think it's a fantastic series. You guys know my love for Sarah J. Maas is higher than the freaking kite, so I loved it. Cannot wait to read more of her. Super excited for House of Earth and Blood Part 2. I'm dying inside. Then we have Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer. This is the second book in the Cursebreaker series. I've actually since completed this series, so yes, I've definitely read this one. I liked it. I think that the series as a whole is a very good series. It's not my favorite series that I've ever read, but I think that it definitely has some wonderful aspects to it, some really wonderful characters, and some great writing. So I'm really glad that I read it, and I'm definitely curious to read more of Bridget Kemmerer. I believe that she's writing some more stuff in this world as well, and she just recently came out with a new book, so hopefully I can get to that one as well. Then we have Actor Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This book was so good. It was the last and final book in the Brown Sisters series, and I loved it. I read it the month after it came out, and I flew through it. It was amazing. So much humor, so many great scenes. I love the characters, I love the representation, I loved everything about this book. I'm sad that the series is over, but I'm super excited to own them, as well as read more from Talia Hibbert in the future because I think that she's a fantastic writer. I love the series so much I cannot even express to you. Okay, that is it. That is all of the 21 books that I was supposed to read in 2021. And of the 21 books that we had here today, I read 12 of them. So honestly, not too bad. Plus, I have one more on my TBR. So if I finish Occulta by the end of this month, I will have read 13 books off of my 21 books to read in 2021. So, you know, that's still an F if you think about it. But it's fine. It's like actually, I think it's a D. It's more like a D minus. But I made efforts. I made a try. This was more of a guiding list for me to just kind of get myself acquainted to some of the books that I was really hoping were going to be high rating books for me. Some of them worked out really well, others didn't so much, but that is okay. You know, you can't win them all, you win some, you lose some. But I am really proud of my progress. I think that, especially with my TBR game, it's super unpredictable and I can never really concretely say what's going to be read each and every month. So the fact that I got a lot of these read and prioritized a lot of these, I feel very accomplished. I feel very proud of myself. I will definitely be doing another one of these videos for 2022. So hopefully I will do a smidgen better than this year, but we shall see. I just like to add this in as a way to kind of push myself to get to some of those books that maybe I'm really excited for, but can't seem to get on a TBR, or books that intimidate me, but are still really intriguing. So I think that this list is going to look a little bit different for next year, but I am excited to do it nonetheless. Let me know if you had any goals that you set for yourself in regards to 21 books to read in 2021, how many you read, if you liked them, what you thought. Also, I would love to hear your thoughts on any of the books that I mentioned today. If you read them, what did you think of them? Leave your comments down below. You know, I love chatting with you. Also, if you made it to the end of this video, leave your favorite emoji. Leave your favorite emoji in the comments below to let me know that you made it to the end. I would love to see what emojis that you guys are using because I tend to use the same 5 emojis every single time that I text because I'm not an emoji user. I really, really hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, please make sure to give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave. And of course, leave any comments, questions, suggestions in the comment section below. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.